Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. Please continue to pray for me by singing along with me, gesturing at your screen, and hitting the dislike button on this and any other video that you feel is worthy of support. This month will mark 3 years since the first time I ever sang the Peter Dislike jingle. I adopted it from Peter Schiff. I've been watching the Peter Schiff show since 2008. I affectionately call it the Peter Shit Show because Peter Schiff talks so badly about the economy. It's like a shit show. And so I decided to adopt it and sing the Peter Shit Show. This was about 3 years ago. But then I started getting a lot of dislikes. And so I changed it to Peter Dislike Show. Now, ever since praying the Peter Dislike, a lot of good things have happened in my life. I accumulated, let's see, since then I've added about one more ton of bismuth. I already had a good amount at the time, right? I'm trying to remember my history. No, I added quite a few more. I added 2.5 tons of bismuth since singing the song. I've added, trying to remember my history, another 10 ounces of platinum. I've added a lot. I've maxed out my Roth IRA every year since then. I was kind of falling behind earlier this year. Earlier this year, if you can believe it, I still hadn't contributed. I still hadn't maxed out my Roth IRA from last year. You get until April 15 to do that, and not only did I catch up on that, but I maxed it out this year as well. I had a situation earlier this month that inspired me to go max out my Roth IRA. I talked about it in my last video. So that's 3 years worth of IRAs, 10 ounces of platinum, 2.5 tons of bismuth. And obviously, I met the girl in Vietnam, and I made a few friends here in the States too. Yesterday, I had an interesting situation yesterday. I was going to a board game meetup. I was running late. Uh, I work at a tutoring center. My students, some of them are a little bit more high maintenance than I had hoped, which is great. When I have the time, it's great. One thing that I've learned the hard way, and this is something I still cannot get over ever since moving out of my parents' home. One thing that I really despise is how time always seems to be churning away. No matter what you're doing, you can't catch a breath without time just chugging away at you, right? And but yesterday I was the bigger person in that, so that's good. And it's nice that I have breathing room nowadays compared to in times past. In times past, I couldn't afford to lose my job. In times past, I needed every opportunity I could get to network, and it really showed. Nowadays, I don't feel that way anymore. I have a little bit more breathing room, but I'd like to make my situation even better. I want to have good rapport with everybody. And the reason for that is, let's face it, no matter how non toxic your job might be, stuff comes up. The economy is going to go up and down at some point, right? Eventually, you might get sick, right? Or one of your colleagues might get sick, right? Eventually, one of the students, not necessarily out of trouble, might have a conflict, right? Like for example, last month when my student brought in food that I'm allergic to, she was eating a bag of Cheetos, got it all over her hands, got it all over the table, right? That it's not her fault that she does it, but things like that can happen, right? Eventually, maybe one of the parents could be an idiot and do something crazy at the center, right? Maybe there's even some kind of I teach at a community college as well. Maybe there's even some kind of mass violence, right? That happens. Unfortunately, we drill for that all the time, right? Eventually, there might be. You get the idea, right? And I want to build as many connections as I can before any of that happens. It'll make the transition a lot easier. I think a lot of times these things normally wouldn't throw me, except for the fact that I'm constantly skating on thin ice, no connections, and in the past, the poorly leveraged, right? I've often, I moved to Phoenix literally with only the clothes on my back, and I couldn't afford for anything to go wrong, and it really showed, right? And when I finally moved to Vietnam, I want to move with a lot more than just the clothes on my back because that's what destroyed me when I first got to Phoenix. You got to remember, we just reopened from the worst of the pandemic, and okay, my art projects. I hope continue to pray that the Supreme Court overthrows Donald Trump's tariffs. If nothing else, make $800 tariff free again. That was nice. I took advantage of that. I want to make a bust of Mary Curry. Yesterday was her birthday. I want to make a bust in commemoration of when she turns 160 years old, 2 years from now. About let's go for like at least 1 or 200 pounds of a very special material in relation to Mary Curry, the raw material that's now used to make her discovery. So I'm hoping for a graphite mold, and so the front will be the bust of Mary Curry. On the back, you can have jagged crystals, right? That's what I'm envisioning. About 1 or 200 pounds. I am surprised that we've never had an official commemorative coin of Mary Curry made of a special material that can now be used to make Mary Curry's discovery. We've made it all out. We've made coins of Mary Curry out of all sorts of materials, like gold, silver, and during the hyperinflation, there were a few, not only paper notes but coins as well, made of copper, zinc, nickel. I think maybe aluminum. But we've never made a coin out of material that could be used to make her discovery. Uh, Especially a commemorative coin, right? Maybe not so much a circulating coin because it's very brittle and it's very rare, right? If any country used it as circulating currency, you can only imagine how high the price would go, right? Um, Short of that, I'm going to do my own 1 or 200 pounds, kind of like Yamashita's treasure. I've been wanting to do a big pour like that. I'm going to continue to submit Lego ideas. I need to take a break from the Legos. The project has become very toxic in the sense that I start out 1,000 different things and I don't seem to complete many of them. A lot of my projects end up like that, unfortunately. The computer games are in terminal decline because of that kind of behavior, and now the Legos, and so even my art project, my storage locker is a disaster because there's 1,000 half finished things in there. I got to think about what to do. But you know what? I have mixed feelings about people who do that. I have students who do that too. Some of my students are very gifted, and they have their own websites. Their they got very advanced stuff on their social media, but it's fragmented. A little bit here, a little bit there. A few good photos here, no story put together. They started working on HTML, nothing. I have mixed feelings about that because I know, given the opportunity, a lot of these students will complete 1 or 2 things on the. Think of it as a giant conveyor belt. Right? Once the belt is primed, a lot of things do come off the other end. The only problem is that times change, right? What started as a good project 10 years ago, 10 years from now, HTML is going to look very different. And so I have mixed feelings about that. If we lived forever and times didn't change, I'd be all for it, right? But I'm going to have to figure out what to do about that because my Lego projects are very, very fragmented. Just the other day, I was just thinking if I were to die unexpectedly, what those half-finished Lego projects, what would end up of them? I suspect they'll be lost and forgotten, right? Uh, a lot of my metal art might just be recycled, melted down. Right? It's just sad, right? Unfortunately, um, but continue to pray that. I'm kind of torn about the whole government shutdown situation. I had hoped that I would have time to myself. I had hoped to go to a national park during the shutdown, but I love all my students. I can't bring myself to just check out. Uh, if you live near a national park, why don't you go to one during this time for me? I had a really good time during the 2018, 2019 government shutdown. I went to Yosemite But I'm looking forward to when government finally reopens. It usually creates a little bit of chaos in the financial markets, and I'm hoping to take advantage of it. I'm not sure which way it's going to go, though. Maybe precious metals will crash, and I'll get to haul in a little bit, or maybe the emerging market stocks will crash, and I'll get to haul something in. Right? I'm hoping for something like that. I love those big hauls. Like every time I think about a crisis, I think about what I hauled in. During the beginning of COVID, I bought a 1,000 ounce silver bar, and I bought a lot of silver during the global financial crisis as well. Uh, During this current situation, I bought a lot of emerging market stocks. I recently bought the Filipino ETF, and when Russia invaded Ukraine, I bought a lot of Eastern European ETFs as well. So, it, it's kind of sad because every time I think about these crises, the first thing I think about is how much money I made off of them. It makes it very difficult for me to cry with other people who are crying over this, right? I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. 2022, when Russia had invaded Ukraine, I wanted to take advantage of the stock market. I was buying the Poland's ETF, EPOL, which I affectionately call Polonian mining stocks sometimes. Um, and what had happened was they had crashed by about 50%. And I wanted to see if I could get an advance on my paycheck. I was teaching at Washington Technology University. The truth is that I wanted to test the system. If I didn't get the advance, it wasn't the end of the world. But I've been hearing that people can negotiate. I learned that everything's negotiable, and I kind of wanted to test things out a little bit. Uh, the HR girl was really upset at me. I explained that I had a family matter. I didn't really go into too much detail, but she explained how it created a lot of paperwork drama, and the truth is that I sometimes talk too much about my personal life, right? My colleagues know that I collect coins, invest in precious metals, and now I need a paycheck advance. You know that I the person that I talk too much. Right? Now today, if I went to my work at the tutoring center and asked for the same favor, I might not get so much hostility anymore because these people won't have my personal background to go off of, right? So that was a lesson learned. This is the Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum.